What's up guys, Pidget here. I can't find the words how tanky this build or how big damage it can deal. For the first time I had to stop doing damage, otherwise you could not see the tankiness of the build. Let's see what things we got on the damage side. We're using the Crucible 3 mod, your totems exploding 600% of their life as physical damage. My totem choice is Devouring Totem, because this totem has the highest base health. Our base damage is around with one totem exploding over 10k, making the highest base damage in the game. We're pairing this with trap support, so we can throw 5 traps with one signal cast. The reason is why the build works, because when your traps gets triggered, it will start summon the totems. But because you can't have more than one totem active, the rest of the totems immediately explode. This is why we also taking the totem mastery. So we operating 50k base damage without any multiplier. We adding to the mix poison, and you need 100% poison chance and a specific crafted bow, which is very easy to craft to increase the totem life even further. I bought the base with the right Crucible mod for Vine Divine and self-crafted. Keep in mind, I did not use level 4 Empower, or I didn't have the Crucible node that has 70% chance to summon another totem. So this is a very budget damage you see. But the question, do you really need even more damage when you have to stop and wait for the boss to do anything so I can showcase the tankiness? We can use 3 curses in our build, because using my favorite unique ring, Anathema, our curse limit is equal to our maximum power charges. Every character can have 3 power charges, so our curse limit is 3. Because we're using poison as the main source of damage, we can use the despair for lower the enemy chaos resistance and temporal chains for our poison lasts longer on the enemies. And you know me, my choice for the third curse is a defensive curse, Enfeeble, which is reducing the damage the enemy deal to us. We can easily generate frenzy charges for even more damage, because we're using charged trap support. But if you farming Ether of Words altars and you get the reduced defensive per frenzy charge mod, you can socket out this or use enhance if you want to. The reason is we need to swap out, because we're using Eldritch Battery to able reserve all of our mana, and if our defenses gets reduced, it will be annoying random up because you run out the energy shield and can't use your abilities. On the defensive side, let's start with my favorite part. We have Elemental Ailments Immunity. Because we're using Purity of Elements, you also get tons of elemental resistance, so we don't have to worry about the resistance cap. The other best thing about this build, we almost converting all of the physical damage taken to elemental damage. We have 87% physical taken as elemental. Using Lightning Coil, that's alone 50%. A unique flask, namely Taste of Hate, that's 21%, because we have increased flask effect node allocated on the tree, 12% from our Watcher Eye, because we're using Purity of Element, and 6% from our helmet craft. We could have more, but we need the energy shield from our helmet, so we can't craft Fizz taken as fire. But we already can tank the Cirrus Meteor, so we don't need more reduction. Because we take that many damage as elemental, we can use all the elemental damage reduction flask, Ruby, Topaz, and the unique Sapphire Flask, Taste of Hate, so reducing the damage we take from the physical damage that we converting to elemental damage. Using Petrified Blood, if you not use this aura before, this makes us unable to recover about 50% life without Flask. But for exchange, we will stagger percentage of the damage we take, and it will deal to us over 4 seconds. We have insane recovery from our Ascendancy, because with taking Pathfinder, we can use the Master Surgeon node that will make our life flask still active if our life reaching full, making it extremely good with Petrified Blood. From our life flask we get over 1k life regen alone, and that is up all the time. I hope I don't need to mention we have permanent flask uptime because we're playing as Pathfinder. I would like if you hit the like button like the Shaper hitting the Elder, so it can start spread to more people. Thank you. Few important things you need in the build: aim on your weapon, +1 Sagati gems, increase chaos damage over time, and then craft +2 to support gems and chaos damage over time multiplier. You also need the Crucible tree. I would say the only important is the totem node. Alone this will carry the build. Anything that chaos damage or overtime, just a bonus. I have to say, I also got the Herald of Agony node, which is increasing the effect the Herald for the exchange the bigger reservation. That's why I use a Helm enchantment and reducing one of my aura reservation. If you don't have that Herald node, you don't have to use any of this. this, but of course check your reservation in POB before doing anything. On the amulet I only get attributes and life because the beard doesn't need anything. Also I anointed discipline and training for the maximum life. That's how strong this beard. You don't need damage anointment. Using 2 unique items or body armor lighting coil. You don't have to 6-link it, just use the sockets to fill up with your auras or any other gems you use in the build. Anathema unique ring. With this ring you can use free curse in the build, also give us int and a little bit of energy shield. Or keyword is also important. You can use Y arrow keyword with hunter influence because it can roll poison chance and poison damage, which will help you cap your poison chance. Flasks we using is a divine life flask, ruby, topaz, a unique flask, taste of hate, and quicksilver. All the utility flask needs to be this mod. Gain free charge when you take a hit, and all of your flasks need this enchantment. Use when full. The submods needs to be this: elemental resistance during effect, reduce mana cost, 50% to chains to avoid being stunned. On your life flask, regenerate 3% of life per second. You can get all of this mod from the betray mechanic when unveiling flasks. The following implicits you can craft with Eldritch currency. Spam tier you get the following. On your gloves, suppression and damage over time multiplier. If you get the why there is a unique enemy or pinnacle boss in your presence, that's also good. On your boots, gain physical damage is extra chaos damage, and why there is a unique enemy, your maximum fire resistance is increased. I use this because it helps a lot Agni Sirius Meteor. On your helmet, physical damage taken as any element, but if you want to make out the best, you can use the physical damage taken as fire for make good use from the maximum fire resistance, but it is really small difference. If you did not get that, don't worry about it. The other mod, Despair, has increased curse effect. I just want to highlight a few things on the passive tree that you need for the build. Using a Watcher Eye with physical damage taken as fire damage while affected by Purity of Elements. Using Militant Fate Timeless Jewel with reduced mana cost of skills per 10 devotion. We socketing here, but when you buying yours, take a look what node gets converted, because it can break your build, just like this node here. Could be one of your allocated node, and you will lose the life or the trap damage here. Also, if you do not have the Herald of Agony buff effect from Crucible tree, you need to allocate this poison chance here. You will not have 100% chance to poison, only 85%. If you don't want to press every time your life flask, just only when you need, unallocate this free flask node here and use the points as. Or just you don't want to level to 89, you can stop at 85 and still tank the game. With taking Pathfinder as our Ascendancy on your first level, we take Nature Reprisal. I'm leveled with Toxic Range, so this node was a game changer in the early acts. Second lab, Nature's Adrenaline. You now generating flash charges. Third lab, Master Surgeon, your life flask will stay active if your life is full. Last lab, Master Toxicist, your poison will spread if your target dies. Gem and Gemling, starting with the main link in our weapon, Devouring Totem, Charger Traps, Cluster Traps, Multiple Trap, Trap Support, Empower level 3. Our curse setup in our gloves, Despair, Infable, Temporal Chains, Arcanist Band. We applying this free curse with Arcanist Band. In our helmet or Divine Blessing setup, Inspiration, Divine Blessing, Malevolence, and Val Haste. We using Val Haste on left click, it will activate itself when we start moving. You can also use the haste while mapping instead of Malevolence, but don't forget to switch back when you fighting Agni's harder bosses. In our body armor or cast when damage taken setup, Immortal Call, cast when damage taken, Flame Dash, and Anomalous Petrified Blood. In our boots, Summon Skitterbots, Divenger Herald of Agony, Enlighten level 3, and Purity of Elements. I hope you enjoyed this video about Exploding Totem Pathfinder. I would like to see you in Discord as well. We are a small but active community. Check the description for the link. Also, I would like to say thank you to my Patreons for supporting me, which is also growing in numbers. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for watching. I was Bridget. See you next time.